thing about this series is there is crack in it. Oh my goodness, it was there. They're both soaked from the lake and she has shut him out. I'm screaming.
Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nellie. Today I'm going to be talking about the best books that I read last month in the month of July. Now I read a ton of books. I read 25 books last month, and so because of the sheer amount of those books, I felt like it would be better in my recaps to focus on the ones I really feel I really have something to say about, rather than taking you down the entire list. But first, let's talk about how I did on my July TBR. Now, on my July TBR, I had 10 books, and I'm very excited to say that I read 8.5 of them. The last two books that I either did not finish or did not get to are The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I read half of that and just really was not in the mood for it. So I decided to put a pause on that for a time when I can really give it what it deserves. And Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, which I'm really actually pretty sad about that I didn't get to, but I definitely will be getting to that before spooky season hits this fall. That being said, let's get into the books that I cannot wait to talk to you guys about. Just to give you guys some stats, of the 24 books, I read 11 contemporary romance. I did not realize how heavy that was in contemporary romance until I put these stats together. I read 8 fantasy books, 1 literary fiction, 1 historical fiction, 2 novellas, and 1 classic. If I don't talk about a certain book in depth that I read, I'm still going to put those books that I don't get to at the end of this video with a rating so you can at least know what my enjoyment level was on that. But without further ado, let's get into the books that I just need to yap about. First on my list, let's talk about This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abe-Sakara. This is so underhyped. Why are more people not talking about this? This is an ancient Rome inspired dark fantasy. There's lots of political intrigue. There is our female main character who's very strong and independent, and throughout this journey that she's going on, she is trying to figure out who tried to unalive her 4 years ago, and that event left her scarred and traumatized. In this book, she becomes what is called a petitor. I just realized that it's not petitor like I've been saying, but it's petitor, who is a person who can magically detect lies. It is a position where you work one-on-one with one of the 4 head judges of this place, and she's assigned to work with the bloodthirsty, the broody Tetrarch Kadra. Most people, when they talk about him, they do not have great things to say, and so that is already a misgiving that she has working one-on-one with him. But also, when he speaks, the tones of his his voice begins to unlock memories of that night where she almost died, which she does not remember a lot of, and she is certain that he was there that night. While she is working with him side by side during the day, at night she is also trying to figure out whether or not he had something to do with what happened to her. This book is so good. I loved the world building. I loved the characters in this book. Most of all, I really enjoyed the simmering, slow burn tension throughout. The romance is definitely a subplot in this book, but when it was there, oh my goodness, it was there. I fell in love with our MMC, and I need more people to read this book expeditiously. I think I ended up giving this book like a 4.75 stars, and the only reason why I didn't give it a 5-star read is because at the beginning I was a little bit confused at what was going on, but that might have been my state of mind and not really the book's fault. This is one that you need to go in just knowing that you need your full brain power, right? This is not a brain rot book, and you need to be into this book if you're in this book. Also, if you want to see my reactions while reading this book, I did film this as part of a reading vlog where I read underhyped books. Next, and also part of that blog, I have to talk about Now and Forever by Ashley Manley, just because you guys know, if you've been here before, I love Ashley Manley. The way that she writes contemporary romances, I just really connect with. She's able to do raw and emotional without taking it to a point of discomfort, if you know what I mean. I guess I'll contrast that with a book I read towards the end of the month right after I talk about this. In this book, our main character is dealing with the loss of her brother, and not only the loss of her brother, when her brother passed away, her brother's best friend, who she was deeply in love with, just up and left. And so she's got a lot of resentment towards him because of that. She ended up coming back to her hometown and staying there and just kind of getting stuck in her life. But Ford, the person she was in love with, and he ends up moving back into town with his teenage daughter in tow. Now, she doesn't want anything to do with him, but let me tell you about this man. This man is everything. He is perfection. There is this scene, the two of them have a glass door basically between each other. They're both soaked from the lake, and she has shut him out, and just the emotion in that scene alone, I don't even think there's very many words, is something that I need to see on the big screen, okay? I need to see this on a big screen, and I need more people to read about this so that I can talk about it with you. I ended up giving this book a 5 stars. Again, Ashley Manley is just an auto-buy author for me, and she writes books for me. Like, these books are just for me. On the other side of that, to kind of contrast, I read another book by Jennifer Hartman. I'm starting to think she might just not be my author, and that's okay. I read June 1st by Jennifer Hartman. I believe this is the second book of hers that I've read. She also does very raw, emotional romances, but she also leans into the uncomfortable side of it. Like, if you really like forbidden romances that are basically taboo, then you will probably love her writing. I feel like I like them in theory, but the way that she writes them out, I just end up feeling kind of yuck inside. I don't know how else to say it, and I really don't mean to rag on this book because I know there are people who absolutely love her writing and absolutely love, like, the uncomfortable, uglier side of love, and that's okay. That just might not be my cup of tea. This book is definitely more of a forbidden romance. We have our main character. There were parts of this book that I absolutely loved, and there were parts I just hated. Our main character is basically the boy next door. At 6 years old, his father unalives his mother, and in his mother's will, she wanted her best friend, who is basically their next door neighbor, to take him in. Now, his best friend, who's also 6 years old, is the son of that family that is taking him in, and on that night that his mother and father pass away, they have a baby girl named June. Our main character Brant is in lots of therapy, and he just keeps fixating on how his mom said she would protect him, and in the end she didn't, and so he decides that this little baby girl he is going to protect just forever from everything, and he takes that pact very seriously. As they grow up, him and his best friend Theo, who are now brothers, even though he completely rejects that term of family. He's very grateful for the family he lives with, but just because of his trauma, he cannot see them as blood, basically. That does not stop him from being very protective of Theo's little sister June all the way until he is an adult. Now, until he is an adult, there is absolutely nothing romantic there. Nothing. Which I'm very appreciative of. However, I felt like the way that they got together, I just did not like. And the way that she wrote Spice in this book, I just did not like. And that's okay. I ended up giving this book like a 2.75 out of 5 stars. But for me, I just could not see myself recommending it because of the way that it made me feel while I was reading it. But if this intrigues you, it might be for you. It's not for me, but it might be for you. Then I moved into a new release, which I was really, really excited about, and that was Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. This book is based off of a Hermione fanfic that I read. It was called The Auction, and I really liked that fanfiction, even though I'm not a dark fantasy girly. Other people love it, and that is okay. We all have different tolerances. And we all can be nice to each other, even if we don't like the same things. So don't get mad at me, okay? However, this is absolutely an exception for me. I loved this book, and I think it's because I loved that fanfiction. I loved seeing hints of Draco and Hermione in these characters, even though they were reworked, and I liked the magic system being mind magic and heart magic. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. This is about our main character, Bryony. A war has just finished and her people have lost. She is the princess of the people called Evermore who practice mind magic. Her twin brother, the Chosen One, was supposed to win this war for them, and he did not. And so now her people are in chains, and they are auctioned off as basically sources of magic to be siphoned to the people who've won the war, and that is the Bombardi. Now, she ends up being bought by Tovin Hurst, our male main character, and they have a history. Throughout their schooling years, they did not like each other. They were definitely rivals. She ends up in his house wondering why she's there. Her people that are in chains are not being treated well at all. Please read the trigger warnings on this book, but she is being treated very well for the circumstances. She's kind of trying to figure out why. I don't want to give any spoilers. I think that this is a good book after you've read the triggers to go into blind, other than that, as far as the plot. But it's just so good. It was very atmospheric. It really drew me in, and I cannot wait for the next book because the epilogue in this, I'm screaming. Rated this a 4.5 star. Next was a book I was really excited to read. This is by one of my auto-buy authors, and that is Ashley Poston. What in the world? This is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I love Ashley Poston because she works magical realism into contemporary romance, which is something that I love. Her book 7 Year Slip is one of my god tier books. In this book, the magical realism has to do with telepathy and music. Tony, our main character, is a songwriter and she's going through a bit of a writer's block. But one day, she ends up hearing this melody, this unfinished melody in her mind. With that, it is accompanied by a man's voice in her mind. She realizes quickly that they can communicate back and forth in their minds, and they arrange to meet. And you will scream when you find out who this man is. Also in this, her mom is struggling with dementia. She's at the very beginning of that journey, and that is just very bittersweet. I loved seeing the love between her mother and her. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really cool that it was located in the Outer Banks, which is so fun because I am living here in North Carolina. But yeah, this is one that I would really recommend, especially if you want one last hurrah as far as a summer romance before fall comes. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, I can't wait to see more from this author. Next, I dove face first into a fantasy series, a dystopian fantasy series at that is YA, and that is the Shatter Me series. I ended up reading Shatter Me, Unravel Me, oh, that's not Unravel Me, Unravel Me, Ignite Me, and the 2 novellas that were in between that. The thing about this series is there is crack in it. There is something addictive about it that just keeps you reading and reading and reading, but let me tell you something, it's not the writing as far as the plot, and it's definitely not the female main character because she's not my favorite, but what it is this series is a masterclass in yearning. Tahara Mafi does yearning and does a male main character like nobody else. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Throughout, specifically the 2nd and 3rd books, I annotated so much because the yearning, oh my gosh, there is no yearning like the yearning that Aaron Warner does for Juliet. I love the male main character in this series because he is definitely morally gray and he does not have a care about the world or how things are going to turn out. All he cares about is Juliet, and he loves her and accepts her so wholly and completely. It is just so beautiful. Again, I just can't say enough about the way that she writes the tension, the yearning, and just their relationship in general. It just really truly makes me want every single woman on this planet to have a man who yearns for her in the way that Warner yearns for Juliet. So good. I definitely feel like the series got better as it went on. Not necessarily, again, in terms of the female main character. I find her a little bit insufferable. You just get more and more addicted as you go on. So I'm really excited to continue through this series, and it makes me want to move right into this Woven Kingdom when I'm done with it, because I've heard amazing things about that series and the yearning in it as well. I think this will probably end up as a 5-star series for me, but actually the only 5-star I think I've given is to Ignite Me, and it is purely vibes of the relationship. It ain't what's happening, girl. It's just the vibes. Next book that I want to tell you guys about is probably my favorite literary fiction book of the year. I got this as an ARC from NetGalley, and that is Spectacular Things by Miss Beck Dory Stein, and this book was incredible. This is the best literary fiction book that I've read this year. I connected with this book so much. It is a story of 2 sisters and their love and loyalty for each other, and how far they would go for each other, and also how far they would go for themselves. I don't really want to say much more than that. I really think this is worth a read, and it has beautiful love stories and like romance subplots throughout, but I love the journey that both of these sisters go on to find themselves and learn how to choose themselves, what they want for their future and not just what other people expect from them, and also just the sisterhood. The sisterhood is incredible. I am one of 2 daughters, and this book made me want to cry. Like, I just loved it. I loved it, and I was sucked in a way that I'm not normally with literary fiction from the first chapter, because there is high stakes in this literary fiction, which I feel like is not always the case. Like, I feel like a lot of literary fiction is more of a character study without high stakes. This was a character study with high stakes, and so if you're wanting to branch into literary fiction, I would highly, highly recommend Spectacular Things, and I gave this book a 5-star rating. Next, there are 2 more books that I want to talk about, and one is one that actually surprised me and snuck up on me, and that is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I did not like Every Summer After, and that is the first book in this duet. It just had a theme I did not like, and that I just don't enjoy reading about it, and so I was kind of skeptical going into One Golden Summer, but I kept hearing rave reviews, so I knew I had to do it, and I'm so glad I did, because this was so worth the hype, guys. I ended up giving this book 5 stars, which is kind of crazy to me because despite what it sounds like, I'm actually a pretty harsh judge of contemporary romances. You know, I say that, but that might be a lie. If it's a good time, I might just give it 5 stars. But this one is actually worth it. Our main character, Alice, is a photographer and she is helping her grandma after she shatters her hip. Her grandma is just feeling really depressed after this injury, and she basically tells her grandma, you know what? Let's go back to that cabin that we used to spend time at during the summers and just have the best last hurrah of our lives. And so they go and do that, and while she's there, she ends up meeting Charlie, who is assigned by the person who owns this cabin to take care of it. Alice, when she visited Barry's Bay all those years ago when she was growing up, ended up taking this picture that kind of made her career take off, and it was 3 teenagers in this boat, and one of those teenagers was Charlie, which if you read Every Summer After, you'll know who the other 2 people on this boat. But during this summer, Alice realizes that she kind of lived her life very reserved and just didn't put herself out there. And so she decides this summer she wants to be different and she wants to do all these wild and crazy things that she was too reserved to do when she was young. Charlie sees her list and decides he wants in on it, and the two of them work together to check it off. While they do that, they start to have feelings for each other, but there are some things going on with Charlie that she does not know about that kind of causes some issues, and that's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to spoil it. But this book was so good. I devoured it. I loved it. I feel like it just totally redeemed the duet, and it was the absolute perfect ending to summer for me because generally in August I don't really read any more summery books. So this was kind of my last hurrah, and I absolutely loved it. I could see myself doing a reread of this next summer, 1000%. The last book that I want to talk about is the only classic that I have ever read, and that is Pride and Prejudice. You guys, something you don't know about me is I have watched the 2005 version probably at least 20 times. I went to go see it in theaters when it re-released this summer with my friends, and I just absolutely love the characters of Elizabeth and Darcy. I love her crazy family. I love just the dynamics of that. And so I was really excited to read this book. I did choose to listen to it, and I'm so glad I did because it was like being able to watch a movie in my head. And I just had such a grand old time. Guys, this is a masterclass in wit and banter. And Mr. Darcy is, of course, the OG king of yearning. And this is just a story that made me feel like I was coming home. It made me feel so happy while I was reading it. And I'm so glad that I can finally say that I read this book because I love this story and I've loved this story since I was a kid. Honestly, it's an infinity star rating for me, so it's something that I know I will come back to in the years to come and just love. Those are all the books that I was really excited to talk to you guys about that I read in the month of July. As for the other books that I read, you can see their ratings here. And if you want to hear more about what I thought about these books, you can definitely follow me on Goodreads and Fable to read full reviews and my thoughts on those. My August TBR video is already out and it is going to be such a good month of reading. I'm back in my fantasy era, which I'm so excited about. Do not miss out on that. If you stayed to the end of this video, please let me know in the comments below and let me know your favorite and least favorite book that you've read in the month of July. And if you enjoyed this video, enjoyed hearing me yap, please hit that like button and subscribe. I would love to have you here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!